This is Heard Between the Ears, a podcast about candid conversations and human contradictions. We're your hosts, Anna and Kendra. Welcome to Heard Between the Ears. I'm Anna.
And I'm Kendra.
And today we are chatting about it's business, not personal. Or it's personal, not business. However you want to think about it. So I was just thinking, I think it's really hard not to, for me personally, I will say, have your career become your identity.
I can see that.
So a little bit about my my work history, we'll say. I've always been in some sort of service related field. I have primarily, when I've been in more of it's not even a corporate role, but more like a business role, I've worked in marketing and branding, like customer relations, client service, account management. That's been my shtick as far as career goes. But for the better part of 10 plus years, I was in the service industry of fitness, where it was still people were my profession, and providing them with excellent fitness routines.
Yes.
And I just remember I would have multiple conversations with people, and you probably experienced this too, because Kendra and I know each other. Kendra started coming to the studio that I was working at and would take classes from me there. It's really hard for me when you spend so much time with people not to bring some sort of personality into it, especially when you're like human facing. So in order to pass the time, and also while people were working out or whatever, I would tell stories and just be like, here's this thing that's happening in my life, or like, here's what are you doing this weekend, or have you been to this restaurant? And I found that people kind of appreciated that, not just because they would get to know me, but it was a way for you to kind of take your mind off of whatever it was that you were doing. If you were working really hard, it would give you like this element of distraction. And I'm sure that there's a lot of business ethics type of rules, if you will, that say that you need to avoid that kind of relationship or dynamic with your clients. Like, don't put too much of your personal life forward. But like, that's just the type of person I am. Have you had in your experience, are you really good at like drawing the boundaries? And yes, I knew you were the right person for this conversation. You and I are the yin and yang of contradictions, because I feel like I'm generally more always sitting on one side of things and you sit on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is actually, it's because also I have trust issues with people. We talked about this before. I have trust with people in general. And so it's very hard for me to open up with people that I am not familiar with, to be quite honest. And even with the people that I am familiar with, it takes me a while to warm up to them. I remember my old boss, this was like a year or two after our working relationship. And she was like, when we first met, I didn't know if you liked me.
Yeah, I'm sure. I feel like I've been on the receiving end of that. You know what like I'm out here and I'm like, hey, how's it going? What did you do this weekend? Here's this fun story, whatever. And this person is kind of like, why are you telling me this? And I'm trying to connect with you. Connect with me.
And it's like, but like on the flip side, I thought that I didn't know that I was coming off that way, honestly, because like I very much admired her as a person. Like her resume is phenomenal. And then she's just like a phenomenal person. And so I was just like, I didn't even know I was coming off as that way, as, people thinking that I don't like them because, I'm not divulging. And it's just because I naturally don't trust people. And so like, I'm more the person that listens.
Yeah.
Absorbs, absorbs all of the information that I'm taking in just to kind of get to know you as a person before I start feeling comfortable enough to share. And I know that's not great. I know, I'm in therapy for this. I I know. Vulnerability is not my strong suit. We already talked about this.
Right.
But which is why it's so easy for me to just like keep it business versus personal. It's like, well, we're here to talk about business, so I don't really care
Yeah.
about your personal life, especially like I only divulge details if it's going to be pertinent to what the conversation is, and it's not even like that deep.
Yeah. So you're really good at maintaining a line of professionalism. I'm over here like faking it till I make it. Now that I'm back in this like business realm,
Mhm.
I'm really good at listening when there's like lots of stuff that I'm like, I'm not an expert in the field, or like this is still something that I'm, new at, whatever. So like I'm absorbing that way. But my way of like kind of like pulling down some of the boundaries, or like getting that like taste of humanity, is appealing to somebody as a person. Because like, I don't know, I'll go sit in these meetings now and there's this like, I mean, I don't really work in that much of like a super business corporate environment, but like there's this level of like, all right, so like when you're client facing, like you're kind of keeping it together and like very organized. And I'm not saying that I'm like not those things, but at the same time, I feel like I do a better job at serving people when I have a better understanding of their like what's underneath the onion kind of thing, peeling some layers back.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And for me, it's I don't trust people. So I'm just like, we
Yeah,
all try it together. We gonna
right.
out together.
You know what? Like we should just like, if we were in business with each other, we could like roll into the meetings and just, I would be like the one like, hello, how's it going? What did you do over the weekend? I want to hear everything. And then you'd be like, let's get down to business. Here's our agenda. X, Y, Z. This is what's going to happen. Boom, 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 boom. So like,
It's okay.
yeah.
I'm learning to be vulnerable.
I
It's
mean,
not
we're
fun.
all learning, right? It's all just like work in progress.
But I also wanted to touch on something you said
Mm,
earlier, which was like your work being your identity.
yes.
And I can kind of see, I can relate to that in some ways because I think just in this capitalistic society that we live in is very, when you have to constantly hustle, grind to make the money to live in these outrageous, we can't afford to live right now.
Right. Yeah.
Quite honest.
I
Most
am
people,
working to live currently.
right?
Working
We are not
to live.
living to work, we're working to live. And so it's easy for us to be caught up because we're doing that 40, 60, 80, depending on like how many hours of work you do every week. That's the majority of your life. So it's very easy to say, well, my job is who I am because I can't really do anything else because I got to pay these bills. And
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
all versus someone who doesn't have to work like that, who has the privilege to be financially stable and have what's the word, disposable income is the word, the phrase that is what they use, having the disposable income to kind of have more free time. Like
Mhm.
you don't have to say like this is my identity, and that's how I've seen it play out, because I feel like I know a lot of people who they got some money, they got
Right.
some money, and they don't identify as their job
Uh-huh.
because they have all this leisure time to like, I'm going to pick up some hobbies. I'm going to do whatever I want to do because I don't have to work
Yeah.
68 a week.
That's an interesting point. When you were talking about this too, something that jogged my memory is like, I mean, you could even go as far as like stereotypical roles in the workplace, right? So like if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a PhD, there's this like, with that comes like money, right? Because like these people are making a lot of money. They have this really like high end education. They, are there a specialty in the field? Or like if you are somebody who works in marketing, maybe you're perceived as like super creative and like should be wearing funky glasses and your outfit should be super cool. Or like in fitness, I know I felt like I needed to look fit. Like I needed to take care of myself in a way where people would want to hire me, because if I didn't look a certain way, they might not think that I was a credible trainer.
That's so real because I would never. I would hire a trainer that doesn't look like they work out, and I know that's I'm feeding into that stereotype.
Well, I think we all do, if we're being honest. Like if I go to the doctor's office and it looks like my doctor doesn't take care of themselves, like if they didn't maintain a certain level of professionalism, I don't want to come back to them. I had an instance where I went to a doctor's appointment, and so I had a hernia, and I was like, I think I have a hernia. And he was like, that's a lymph node. And I immediately was like, it is not a lymph node. Like, you just sounded so ignorant. I will not be coming back to you, because I think I could WebMD this, and like, I am now the person who's the expert and you're the one who's the doctor. Like,
And
yeah.
like because you're in the fitness industry, like you know how the body works. I mean, you're not like a doctor,
No,
obviously,
yeah.
so you diagnose things, but like you know the different parts of the bodies and how they work and
Yeah.
what a lymph node is versus
Yeah. So like your identity, your credibility, and how your credibility is associated with your professional, like, I think there's an association there. Like, a credible person looks, acts, talks a certain way in
yeah.
the business field.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 1000%. I don't think even like people, because my background is in nonprofit, well, research slash nonprofit. And so I even feel like people who are in the nonprofit space who like their entire career has been in nonprofit, they always say, I I'm in the service industry. So either I'm a nonprofit person or I'm in whatever their specialty area is in nonprofit, like that is their identity now. And it's just
Mhm.
like there's more to life
Well,
than
even you saying nonprofit, I'm like, she's got her hand out. Cause you nonprofits, they operate off of a lot of donations, grants, things like that. So I immediately am like, oh, she's a nonprofit. She's reaching out to people to secure funding for this, that, and the other. And you don't actually do that. I mean, it's part of the job, but like, that is not what you do.
not a nonprofit. I am a
Yeah.
full company.
You're a for-profit company in your previous life.
I work with nonprofits,
Yeah.
but I'm a for-profit.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, just like thinking about how nonprofits work, they never have enough
Right.
because they have to rely on donations, grants, and so and the populations that they serve, they have immediate needs that need to be met. Like that's the unique thing about nonprofits. Like you need to meet the needs of your community immediately, and it's also constantly changing
Mhm.
with urgency. And so if you don't have the money, you can't really solve the problem. And so like there's just this deficit always, whether it's money, whether it's with capacity, whatever it is, you always looking for something more.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so this is another thing with it's business, not personal. Conflict in the workplace.
Mm. Okay.
And like I would say along with that is different of not only management styles, but different working styles,
Mhm.
different communication styles. So like, okay, for example, you and I are in the workplace. I'm this, I want to be vulnerable. I'm really trusting. I want to get to know you. And you're perceived as kind of closed off, or like, let's stay down to business, or, you know, whatever. So here we go. We've got, client is not happy because XYZ. So now I'm coming to you to appeal to solve the problem. So you and I might have two ways of thinking about how to solve the problem. Have you
Yeah.
experienced any sort of like conflict in the workplace? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
Black woman in America. I am always in conflict with something
Oh.
based on my identity.
Mhm.
Um, I think so. I also want to say that conflict isn't always, this is from my leadership. I did a leadership training class last year. And we learned about conflict and how conflict is like we all perceive conflict as a bad thing, and it's not. It's
Mhm.
the word is a neutral word, and it can be good and it can be bad, but ultimately it's a neutral word. And sometimes it's good to have conflict because that means there's just a difference of an opinion, and
Mhm.
difference of opinion is good because like we're not all meant to be the same. We're not the same people. We're not all meant to think the same. And so sometimes conflict is good because it leads to innovation.
Right.
And so I think, yes, I have experienced both good and bad conflict in the workspace. And I think when conflict has been good for me, it's when I have been pushed to be more open-minded, to be more innovative, and amazing things have come
Mhm.
from conflict,
Mhm.
which was literally just, it was a difference of an opinion about how we should do something. And then we like really dug deep into like, all right, well, how are we going to solve this? And we came up with this really cool idea. Um,
Mhm.
but then like, now I can't say that most of my conflict has been good. Most of my conflict has actually been bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been bad because people perceive me. There's this stereotype, first of all, for Black women about how we are aggressive and excuse me, we're either very aggressive or we're not a team player because we're choosing to like not be aggressive. Like it's just we can't win in the workplace,
Mhm.
first of all.
Mhm.
And so I've been on both ends of that spectrum because I am the type of person like we just talked about. Vulnerability is not my strong suit. So when it comes to business, I'm a be about business.
Right.
But like if because that is my mindset, people will say, oh, she's not a really good team player because
Mhm.
she always wants to keep it about business. It's just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't win.
What?
Right.
And it's
Right.
like when I'm like voicing opinion, especially when I feel like I'm being snuffed out or overlooked or literally being saying like, we don't need to hear that right now. And then like I push, that's when I'm like being aggressive. But like John over here can do the same thing and he's lauded, or even Sarah, these are just random names,
Yeah.
or Sarah could also do the same thing and not be labeled as aggressive. But when I do it, then it's a problem.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate. I know I've definitely experienced similar things that you're talking about, maybe not obviously to the same extent of I think for me as like a white woman in the workplace, it's more like, oh, she's meek, she can be a pushover, like her idea, like maybe discredit her ideas. You have to be like this particular level of assertive that isn't too far. You're like, you're not too assertive, but then you can't also like recoil back and be like too meek. So, um, yeah, like I feel like when I was even in the interview process, I was chatting with another woman, who she's like a freaking badass, like C-suite marketing, like chief marketing officer for a very, very large company. And she was like, Anna, when you're negotiating your salary, you need to ask them for like $100,000. Meanwhile, like the pay that was listed in the job posting was significantly less than that. And I was like, Diana, I cannot ask for that much money. She's like, why not? What are they going to do? Tell you no? She was like, a guy would ask for 100K. Like, why are you not asking for 100K? And I did not ask for 100K because I was sitting over here like, I don't think I'm very qualified. Like, I mean, I am, but I'm not. And just like all these different types of excuses roll through my head because I don't like conflict. I don't like confrontation. Like, that's just me as a person. I'm like way more resolved. Um, and I find that when I'm trying to speak up for something, I have to give myself like a mental pep talk. And like, I sit over here and I get pretty worked up about it in my head. And then finally, when I like jump in to make whatever the comment is, it's like, did that, like, did I miss the mark on that? Like, constantly like monitoring what my delivery was. And to your point again, like somebody on either side of me could be saying the same thing. They may have arrived at the conclusion in a different way, but for whatever reason, like it seems like those people get heard.
Mhm. Yeah. And I like conflict. I don't love conflict, but like I don't shy away from conflict or confrontation just because, especially like as I've gotten older, I feel like I've become more I defend myself more because I feel like growing up I didn't do that, and I have finally found my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so like because of that, I do not shy away from speaking my opinion in a way that is not harmful or
Yeah.
hurtful to others. Like I'm not going to just try to deteriorate. Did I just say that word? That's not the word I meant.
Diminish,
Thank
deteriorate,
you.
credit.
Like diminish. That's not the D word I'm looking for. There's another D word and it'll come to me.
Okay.
Uh I don't want to tear them down
Yeah.
essentially when I do it, but like I am going to like I'm not going to be the one to be like, oh, I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to. It's like, oh, I'm going to get into that because I want to, which is also slightly a problem. So, it's like, did you really have to get into that?
Yeah.
Did you
Right.
really? And I think because I am not, like I said, like I will be the one that will defend myself because I didn't. There were times where I literally kicked myself when I should have defended myself and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that also um that also plays into how people perceive me. And it's just like, okay, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
But I and I think what I have found in my working life since I feel like in the last 10 years, like the last 10 years, I've been really like focused on defending myself or like speaking up for myself and making sure that I'm heard and not misunderstood. And so in the last 10 years, I could see a change in myself and how more confident I have been or have become because I'm able to like feel more confident about, well, I'm not going to not say something because that was inappropriate, that was rude, that was racist, that was like all of those things I'm going to stand up for and speak about in the workplace where somebody else may not. And I know that other people appreciate me for that because people have said it to me. It's like,
Yeah.
wasn't gonna let that slide. So
Right. I mean, confidence in the workplace, it's all like, for me, it's all like your knowledge base. And so I would agree if I felt like I was the expert opinion in the room, I would feel more confident about speaking up than I would if I was not confident about what it is that I'm saying. Um, but okay, getting back to this idea of conflict in the workplace as being good.
Mhm.
And I would probably use a different word than conflict, but to your point, conflict doesn't have to be negative, it can be positive. I would be like solution based or like problem solving. Like how can we arrive at this conclusion together jointly? I feel like for me, I would always be defaulting or relying on personal experience. Like that is probably how I live the majority of my life, and how I speak in like public is just personal experience. Those are the times that I feel confident and that I can speak up for
Mhm.
myself, or like help solve problems, is through whatever experience that I've had. Have you like, when we're in these problem solving situations with other people who have differing opinions or different leadership styles, like how, I'm curious how you manage that. Are you good at reading people and reading the room, or is it just like you're so confident and you know it and you just can like take over? Because I would be like a read the room kind of gal.
I guess it depends. Now the
Uh-oh, here we
shoes
go. Are you
shoes are
switching
yes.
on
It would depend. So like I think it would depend on I think going back to what you said about like being the expert in the room.
me? Hmm.
So if it's like something that I'm not 100% about, I would probably be the person that reads the room and just kind of like I'm also like the way that the ideas come to me, especially when it's not like something I'm super passionate about or very knowledgeable about. It takes me some time to like really sit
Process.
on something, think
Yeah.
about it, and then contribute. And so like I feel like if it's a situation where I'm not the expert and this is a new word concept to me, I will probably be reading the room and trying to think of ideas to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if I am very knowledgeable about the topic at hand, I'm not always the first one to interject, but I do try to um I am one. I don't feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I take control of the room. I don't think that has ever been a thing that I really do. I still can read the room when I am in my element, to be able to like give other people a chance to hear their opinions, but also like I am going to say the things that need to be said. Or if I have an idea, I will be more open to say it versus if it was a subject that I'm not confident about.
Yeah. I feel like I operate on two speeds. It's like I either need to be the first person to say something so that I can just like get it
Get
out
it?
of the way and like that's it and be like, okay, I'm just testing the water, I'm dipping my toe in and seeing how people are going to respond to this. There's that option. Or there's the option where I'm the sponge and I'm
Mm.
like soaking it all in. And then like so we're talking about topic one and like blah 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 blah, and like people are still talking about it, and then they move on to topic two. I'm still in my head about topic one, and like 10 minutes after the discussion's over, I'll be like, oh, I've got this idea. Like ideas just don't come to me that quickly. So I am also with you as far as like I need to absorb, I need to think about it, I need to process, I need to come up with whatever my like brilliant solution is. And sometimes it doesn't happen for me until like days later when I'll be like on a walk with my dog and I'll be like, oh, I have the idea, or like, it just never seems to come to me. I'm not fast enough to think on my feet and come up with whatever the solution is.
Oh, same. Do you then share your idea?
It depends. If it's a good idea, I feel like I will. Like if there is still some sort of something going on in the background where it hasn't quite been solved, or like we're still looking to improve upon, blah, then I feel like at that point I'll be like, hey, I have this really good idea, or just wanted to bounce this idea off of you kind of thing. If it's already been solved, then I just kind of sit there and I go, well, crap, like there went my $1 million idea is gone now. Like it fell on deaf ears, or I might still bring it up if I feel like it's a really good solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the same way where like you said, ideas don't always come to me. And so usually I'll be taking a shower and it's like, oh my God, there it is. There it is, just dropped. Um, and so it's like 2 or 3 days after we've had the conversation, it's like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Okay, so more it's for me it's personal, not business. Or it's business, not personal. So team dynamic wise, question for you, and then I've got like a follow-up. Have you
Okay.
always worked in like a small team, or have you worked in like larger forums?
So what are you considering small and what are you considering large?
Great question. We'll say small, like less than 50, and
Okay.
large more than 50.
Okay. I've had a mixed bag in my
Okay.
career. So I've worked in some large spaces and I've worked in some small to really small spaces.
Yeah. Okay, so as we're I've mostly worked in, I would say, small companies. The largest company that I worked for, like we had like it was a global company. There were like, I don't know, call it like 100 of us in one area. So like that was larger, but we operated in teams where it was like 10 people, 12 people. So like I would consider myself to have mostly worked in small dynamics.
Okay.
do tools like certain tools like what's this person's love language, or like what's their personality test, or like what's their all, you know, all these different resources. I feel like more and more have come to the surface recently, like Enneagram or My Human Design. Like, do any of those things factor in for you? Do you like knowing that type of stuff, or do you just mostly operate on like, this is the dynamic that I'm working with, and like, you know, I guess like, are you more gray or black and white?
I think I'm more gray just because half the time I forget. Because we do, like, I've been on teams where we do the whole personality thing, and then I forget what my personality is, and I forget theirs. So it's just like, it doesn't matter to me just because I'm just I am an observant person. And so,
Yeah.
like, the last job I had, we did a personality test, and my boss was an like her, I don't remember what it was, what the test we took, but like one of her results was like an innovator and ideator. But
Mhm.
I already knew that before she took the test because I could see, because every time we would have like brainstorming sessions, she would always have like some of the best ideas. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm like really good at this.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
not. You're really
Yeah.
good at. And so for me, like I said, I observe first, which is why people think I'm a little standoffish. But like, I am usually observing you in the work environment to see how you operate, like
Mhm.
how you work, what's your working style, like how you think, and all of those things. And so, a lot of the times I can intuit how a person operates in the workspace before we get those results. So that's kind of why I operate in the gray, because it helps me. I already know, kind of.
Yeah.
I already
Yeah.
know how we're gonna work this thing out because I've seen what you've done and observed it, and so those things don't matter to me because I never remember them. The only thing I remember is I'm an Enneagram 7
Okay.
because that was an easy thing to remember. Everything else I don't remember. I don't know if I can I know I'm like an INF or INFP or PF. I don't remember. It's
Yeah. You're like, eh. That what you just said makes sense to me, because we took the Myers-Briggs at like the first company that I worked at. I think it was the Myers-Briggs. And like you basically got filtered into each of, I forget, it was like 5 different categories, and each category was associated with a color. And so on our badges, it would say like Anna Shepherd, and I was green. And so green was emotional. Like that more or less was like what I remember the takeaway was. Red was like a very passionate person. Yellow was somebody who was just kind of like easily flowing in and out of whatever. Green was emotional. Blue was like, I believe blue was technical, and then there was purple as well. Um, but when you were sitting in meetings with these people, like you were supposed to be like, oh, like I know who I'm dealing with because I see like their badge is associated with this color. I can't say that it per se like helped me a ton, but after getting to know those people, I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely see that that's, you know, that's your personality type. I'm a fan of tools. Like I think it's interesting. I think it's another way of like getting to know people. I do think that in some certain, like if you were doing like conflict or problem solving resolution, like to be able to identify with that person is a very like process oriented person. So it's going to be really important for me to articulate to them, these are the steps that need to happen before we move on to whatever. Um, and I'm
I
kind of bringing this up because the new team that I'm on at this job that I've been working at for 2 months, um, we most recently had a discussion where it was like, is there some sort of third party resource that we can bring into the company to do, like whether it's like leadership class or like professional development or communication, whatever. So we have a retreat coming up, and I think I'm going to ask everybody to give me their like birth date to do my human design for each of them. And if you don't know what my human design is, I literally only know enough to be very, very dangerous. So based upon like your birthday, the time of day that you were born, it's kind of a little bit of horoscope mixed with like personality types. And so I'm supposed to be like, based on my human design, I'm supposed to be a generator. So it's like I can constantly like keep the ball rolling and move forward and find energy to like move things forward. And I would say that that's actually pretty accurate for me personally. Um, but then there's other people, like whether you're a manifesting generator or like you're a manifester or this, that, and the other. That's when I'm like, if you know, like it feels a little woo-woo, whatever. But I think it would be really fun for this new group of people to be like, oh, and it gives you like personality traits dependent upon like your birthday and time of day that you were born. So like it's just interesting. I don't know. It's something unique to offer to the group that maybe they've not done before.
I think for people love to make things their like their shtick. And so I like it goes from Harry Potter and like I've never seen Harry Potter. There's a whole story. I've
Oh
never seen
girl.
a there's a whole story behind it that we won't go into today.
Okay.
But um like from Harry Potter being a Gryffindor, I don't know if that's
Oh
the
yeah.
right word, and that to being like a Scorpio or a Gemini and being like really passionate about like feeding into that thing. And that's why like I've seen a lot of people get caught up in that. And I'm just like, it's just a thing. Like you're putting
Yeah.
yourself in a box and like we're human, we're all constantly evolving. So like I understand the utility of personality tests and all these other things that, you know, can help you identify like how well you're going to work with other people. But like we are an evolving species as humans. And so
Mhm.
like what if I am an INFP whatever yesterday or 5 years from now, yet 5 years ago, that doesn't mean I'm still going to be that because my experiences changed, I've grown, and so maybe I've become more extroverted, and so that could change in 10 years. And so like I think I don't want it to define my personality. I just want to be who I am,
I would
whatever.
agree with you. This is where I'm like, I'm twofold on it. I think it's a tool. I think it's a resource. I think it's something interesting. And like, sure, maybe it will help with one project out of the 500 that you do, but like it's something that's available to you. And I also think that you just showed your sociology brain because you were like, and I agree with you on this. We're an evolution. Like we're constantly learning off of like what's bouncing off of us. Whereas like somebody who's like a psychiatry major would be like, this is Freudian. Like it's rude. You were born this way. You're never going to change. Like you're always going to arrive back at the same place because this is innately who you are as a human.
But I don't agree with that. And I guess that's my sociology hat.
Yes.
I don't agree with that because we have seen people change, whether that's through their certain because of something change externally or internally. People can change. And so saying that well, that's why I was never a psych major and didn't really care for the psych people. But my,
This is also funny. You want to know something else, Kendra? I have a psychology minor and you have a sociology background. But I agree with you. Like it has taken me a long time to like my ideas being really concrete. When I was in college, I was very much it's black or it's white. Like I needed to be able to arrive at an answer. And as I've grown up in my experience, I am definitely feeling like, okay, I can live more in the gray. I think at the root of me, the way that I think about things, I do need to have like some sort of yes or no definitive answer, but like how I arrive there is so gray. I can't even like it's so gray. Because I have also changed as a person 1,000 times, 1,000% over. I've changed as a person.
yeah, we
Uh,
change for better sometimes, but sometimes for, the worse. But we change regardless.
it's so true. We change. I agree with you. I think it's question time. Do you think it's question time?
Question time.
Yeah. Do you want to do the honors or do you want
Oh,
me
is
to?
it first?
Sure.
Okay. So I immediately forgot this is what our topic was today. So I didn't have a question, but I thought of one as we've been talking.
Hey, it's all good.
So hold on, I just lost it.
Don't worry, that was me. If I'm being honest, that was like very much me like last week and maybe even the week before. Like I knew I needed to have a question, but I would be like, I don't know what my question is. So I would
Because
like
I
write it down.
write my question down and I haven't written it down. So why don't you go while I
Okay, okay.
remember this?
All right. So while you're jotting your question down or thinking about how you want to ask it, my question for you is, can you tell me maybe if it's a name or if it's not a name, either way, I'll let you decide, but a story we'll say about who your first mentor was and how they like impacted your either career choice or like that job, or just tell me a story about your first mentor, or I can tell you mine.
That is a really good question. And I will have to say that I've never had a mentor. I don't love the word mentor and this idea of it just because, like, I think the way that mentorship has evolved today is completely different than how we grew up with mentors, like the word mentor and what mentorship looks like. And so for me, I always thought a mentor-mentee relationship was like this very high up there person in whatever field that they're in, mentoring you to be a better employee, worker, person, blah, 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 blah.
Mm,
And so when it comes to that, in the way that I understand and know what mentor is, I have not had a mentor like that,
okay.
which is why I say I never had a mentor. But there have been people in my life over the course of my life that I feel could have been mentors. I just never gave them that formal title.
Okay.
So I wanted to preference that with that because
Okay.
I don't have a mentor. Like I've never had a mentor in that way.
Okay. All right.
There have been very influential people in my life over the years. And so I think for me, I would say the most influential person really helped me reimagine what it means to be someone that works.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, she really opened my eyes in the way that I operated at work,
Mhm.
whether that was me being, I don't like to use the word standoffish because I don't think I was ever being standoffish. It's just that I'm not vulnerable and I like
Yeah.
am all business. So the way that I come across for people, or even just like encouraging me to speak up for myself more, because
Mhm.
she would notice in the workspace where I sometimes would like not say anything because I didn't want to make a fuss, too much of a fuss. And so I just let it go.
Yeah.
And so she would then like, we would have a meeting after the meeting. And then like, she would encourage me to like be more open to sharing my ideas and expressing myself because like people will never know how I feel unless I say it
Mhm.
in the workspace. And so, and also understanding, walking that line between like the business versus personal, like knowing when you need to divulge some personal things, not too deep, right? But like personal things that's going to move the relationship forward
Mhm.
versus the time where you need to just be professional and say this is a boundary, we're not moving past that boundary in that. And so I think she was the person that really helped me evolve to be the person that I am in the workspace. And I like just kind of to see my evolution. And I wish she was there with me. I wish I had her in my first job because I did everything that I like. I look back at that job and like I stayed at that job for way too long.
Uh-huh.
Shouldn't have stayed as long as I had. I let people walk all over me. Some people were really actually racist to me and I never called it out.
Mm.
It was a toxic work environment, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Uh-huh.
And so I wish she was there. I wish I had met her then, because then I feel like it would have changed the way that I um like saw myself in the workspace, interacted with people in the workspace, and just like my whole confidence level would have like been completely different where
Mm.
it is. Like, yeah. So um yeah, that was her. She was amazing. I'm saying it like she's dead. She's not dead, but
I was,
she
okay, so that was gonna be,
she's an amazing.
unfortunately, that was gonna be a follow-up. She's still
She's,
living.
she's still living. We still have conversations. And she's an amazing woman. So
Hmm, that's fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you have somebody who has been an influential person in your life, even if you don't consider it to be like mentor-mentee type of relationship. So for me, my first, who I would consider to be my mentor, had the realization that like the reason that I operate in the workplace as I do is because I'm pretty much mimicking her type of working style. So she's a very charismatic person. She's very open. She's very loving and warm and very much like kill them with kindness type of person. And so I feel like I definitely modeled off of her behaviors. And she's a very, like, she's so philanthropic. She is well respected, well loved, great at her job. Um, and so I just admire her as a person because she's so influential. I can't like this was my first job too. So like it went from me being an intern into being hired as a full-time employee. And I pretty much like just worked under her, but like I definitely modeled a lot of my behavior and working style off of her dynamic. And so I mean, I guess I'll always kind of aspire to be more like her and more similar to her because she's just so well loved. Like people just adore her. Um yeah, so
so it sounds like we had really great women,
yeah,
to push us to be the people that we are today.
totally, totally.
Okay, I wrote my question down.
Great. Your questions I always have to think 3 times harder about. So let's hear it.
Okay, all right. So, how do you decide when to push back or back off in conflicts?
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to think of a time when I'm like, I really pushed back on that. Because I feel like this is almost related to an interview question. You know what I mean? Like they always like you hear like, oh, how do you handle conflict?
Yeah.
I think again, in instances where I feel like I have a really good knowledge base about this, I am more willing to push back when I feel like it's for the greater good of like whatever the solution is.
Mhm.
Um, so if in my head I'm thinking like this is actually going to impact more people if I don't, you know what I mean? Like whether I say something or whether I don't.
Mhm.
Um, I think most of the time I've probably given in and just been like, you know what, like either you're the expert or you're the owner of the company, or like it seems like you've got a lot more passion and conviction about this than I do. Cause again, like I'm pretty easygoing, and even if it's not something that I would consider like, oh, that's something that I'm really hoping for, like I'll just go with it. Cause again, like I don't like confrontation, I don't like conflict. So I'd rather just like smooth it over and,
Mhm.
you know, go with it. Um, yeah, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've like really pushed back on something. So
So for
I
me,
feel like you have the opposite. You're always a steward of let's make sure this is done right and well, and this is it. I'm speaking out. You know what? You might be my new mentor.
so yes, you're absolutely right. I feel like there's like three modes for me when I'm deciding to push back. It's either I got the time
Okay. Yeah.
because like I don't like that person, or like there's just something that I'm trying to be petty. Really, it's just I'm in my petty mode.
Woo.
I'm very passionate about it, or it's for the greater good. So like those are like the three things, and usually it's one of those that win. I'm not gonna say it's rare because it actually I feel like as I've grown, becoming older, I do push back less, especially when it's like not really worth my time. But it's usually one of those reasons, and so I'm gonna push back. It's
Yeah.
like, no. I'm either being petty, I'm very passionate about whatever it is, or it's for the greater good.
Yeah. I think in my younger days, I was definitely like, if I was going to push back, it was because I was going to be petty. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought that I was right for whatever reason. Like, no, I'm right. And so I would push back coming from that place. As I've grown older, it's been like more from the lens of either it's the greater good or like, I just don't care that much about it. Like, if this is something that you're willing to like really fight for, then like kudos to you, just go for it. Cause I don't like, that's cool. You can even take the lead and then you can give me, to your point, give me my time back. Like if this is something that you're so willing to move forward with, then do it. I'll support you in that effort. But like, yeah.
Outside of that, yeah, that is that. I'm the pushbacker. And I feel like it also stems from like the relationship with my mom, because like she is a very dynamic woman is what I would say. And also she is someone that constantly pushes back, even when it doesn't deserve a pushback. And so dealing with somebody like that who's constantly pushing back, you have to push back to get your point across. And so, yeah, I blame her.
I can't wait for her to listen and be like, I am not that person. Or would she say she is?
She is. She
is.
can't say she not. She will say she is. She
Yeah.
will. She may not want to admit it to people, but
Oh. Well, this is really fun. This is another one that I feel like we could just talk on and on and on about, but like, awesome. I guess, till next time, right?
yeah, till next time. Thanks for listening.
See ya. Thank you for listening. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Drop a comment, leave a review, connect on social media @HeardBetween, and keep coming back for more. Until next time.